The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Ready?
Vladimir Putin has a new warning for the United States after President Biden authorized Ukraine to use long-range missiles supplied by the U.S. to strike inside Russia. Chief Foreign Correspondent Ian Pennell starts us off from Ukraine. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, good morning, George. Nuclear saber rattling from the Kremlin this morning, with Vladimir Putin appearing to threaten to use nuclear weapons if Ukraine fires American-made missiles into Russia. The Kremlin saying the doctrine was updated in response to what it calls the new situation. The new Russian policy essentially authorizes the use of nuclear weapons in response to what it calls, quotes, critical threats of aggression using conventional weapons. Now, remember, President Biden lifting restrictions on the ATACMS ballistic missiles, which are, of course, conventional weapons, essentially allowing them to be fired into Russia. Putin has made nuclear threats before that have proved to be hollow. A senior Ukrainian military source telling me this is blackmail, but also warning nuclear weapons are a Pandora's box that shouldn't be opened. This move likely aimed as much at President-elect Trump, who's promising to end the war when he takes office, but it'll make that all the harder. Meanwhile, Russia again escalating attacks inside Ukraine, striking an apartment block in the north, killing 9, including a child. And for all the talk of peace plans, Ukraine today marking 1,000 days of Russia's devastating war with no end in sight. And just one final bit of breaking news. We're hearing that the Russians are reporting that Ukraine has now used these ATACMS ballistic missiles.
Yes, they've used them, and no nuclear war yet. No, nothing. And, you know, we do have, for a few more months, an intelligence agency that is capable and competent, and they could see whether or not there was a, attempt to position and or, use nuclear weapons. And there isn't any. No. So could we please stop with the Russian talking points? Could we please stop repeating, like what Vladimir Putin wants to do to the American people, which is scare them? Could we stop scaring people all the time with Vladimir Putin's bullcrap? I mean, so here's what happened. We used the ATACMS. They went into an area where the weapons were stashed for these 10,000 elite North Korean troops. Why are they always elite? It's the elite Republican Guard in Iran. They're always elite. And yet they're freaked out because they've never been outside of the hermit nation and they've never seen a drone. And now all of a sudden they're like, what is this? Oh my God, this land is cursed. This land is seriously cursed, by, things we've never seen before. It's demons. No, it's drones. It's drones is what it is. It's drones. And they've never seen it. Anyway, so we launched, Ukraine launched 6 ATACMS into the area where these elite North Korean troops' weapons and supplies were stashed, okay? And what happened was Russia was able to defeat 5 of them, meaning shot them down, and damaged the 6th one. There you have it. Nuclear war. They're threatening nuclear war. You know what? I just shut up already, okay? You know what Vlad's happy about? You know why Vlad's excited? No, not because Donald Trump's going to hand him Ukraine or any of that crap. No, Vlad's excited because America is about to be destroyed from within. America is literally about to be destroyed by Donald Trump. And, this is what the reportage is out of Moscow. Out of Moscow. Yes, I know. It's the New York Times. We don't listen to the New York Times. We listen to Russia. And if Russia's threatening us with nuclear war, my God, man, we better order some MREs and start our prepping again. We better do the doomsday thing. Whatever. Do your thing. You do you. However, you need to understand why Vlad is excited. And so we read, okay? The American election results were received with enthusiasm in Moscow. President Vladimir Putin, offering his congratulations, seemed genuinely pleased. But it's not because Donald Trump is seen as pro-Russian or even one of their own. Nor is it the prospect of an advantageous peace deal in Ukraine ruthlessly brokered by Mr. Trump. The first reported call between the two leaders, which the Kremlin denies took place, suggests that the incoming administration will not be a pushover. Instead, the excitement comes from something else. Something else. It's that to many in the Kremlin, who are all KGB agents, by the way, a Trump presidency might bring about the collapse of America. The idea that the United States is entering into the final stage of its history? Oh my God. When I said the last election, I didn't mean like as in the final one. I meant like the one we just had. But Vlad doesn't. He means like the final one. The idea that the United States is entering the final stage of its history has been kicking around Russia for some time. For years, it was just fringe voices. But since around 2020, the Kremlin has been making the argument too. And leading the charge is Nikolai Patrushev, a former director of the Federal Security Service and one of Mr. Putin's key advisors. Widely regarded as Russia's leading hardliner, he was among the first to claim that America is on an inexorable path to implosion. We don't need no stinking nukes. We're going to do it to ourselves. In an interview with, it's the Russian Gazette in English, the official publication of the Russian government, Mr. Patrushev detailed what it would look like. He says the United States is going to split into the North and South, and the South is moving toward Mexico, whose lands were seized by Americans in 1848. Make no mistake, he said, sooner or later, the southern neighbors of the United States will reclaim the territories taken from them. Oh my God, good luck, Texas. Good luck to you, Arizona. Good luck. They're saying that you're going to have to, fight off the Mexicans once you split from the U.S. Isn't that fabulous? Isn't that something? Isn't that special? And Putin laid out a similar view of the disintegration of our territory. He said, as a former citizen of the former Soviet Union, I'll tell you the problem with empires. They believe they're so powerful that they can afford minor mistakes. But the problems accumulate. And then a moment comes when they're no longer manageable. The United States is confidently, firmly marching down the same path as the Soviet Union. That is a quote from Vlad. That is the fundamental assessment of Russia, and he is convinced that America is nearing its end. So here's my question for the day. Is this what you voted for? Is it? Because I got news for you. Now we're starting to see the numbers now that things have been counted. There's still some counting going on. The Cook Report says that when California is finally finished, I never thought of Gavin as a guy who couldn't finish. Did you? I don't know. Maybe that's why he looks so much like, what's his face from, American Psycho. Right? I mean, they're like twins. It's creepy. Do you know who it is?
Just no Bale plays him.
Yeah, Christian Bale.
Okay, I thought you were looking for the character's name, which I didn't have off the top of my head.
No, Christian Bale.
But it is great. They do look a lot alike.
A lot alike. It's crazy. It's creepy. Anyway, when California finishes, come on, Gavin. Come on, boy. Let's do it. Charlie Cook is saying that Donald Trump will have, less than 50%, meaning only half of our country's back rap. The other half, no, which is good news. But what's really, really upsetting to me is the cumulative number of votes that Donald Trump won by. And I'm not saying he didn't win. He did. But the cumulative number that Donald Trump won by is 276,000. 270. Now, when Biden ran, I think he won by 8 million votes, 276,000 votes. And then when you look at the numbers of people who stayed home, okay, I'll give you a really big one. This is a true number. 90 million, swear to God, eligible, not necessarily registered. Just got to couch it, okay? 90 million eligible voters, meaning of age, American citizens who could have voted, did not. 90 million, and he won by 276,000.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
The Randi Rhodes Show. All right. Linda in Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Randy.
Hi.
I just flipped over here and heard your question of the day. Am I happy with what I've seen so far? I'm in no way pretending to be an expert on all these people. Number one, I do not live in their house. I do not live in their minds. But their records hold true to the America I want to go back to.
Really? You want a bunch of sex pests?
I want people that will uphold American values.
But they
such
won't.
As God created it the way.
Linda.
Do you think you were a mistake? Do you feel like you were a mistake, Randy?
No, but I had an ectopic pregnancy, and I would have died if I didn't have an abortion.
I too
and I
had
was
those
only
issues.
Okay, so I was only 23 years old. Why am I a murderer?
And who called you that?
What?
No one's calling you that. Everyone knows
said,
that our medical...
You just said, do I feel like I'm a mistake? Why?
No.
What kind of a question is that? And
by the way,
the people, what? The transgender, how many people in this country would you say are suffering from from body dysmorphia, which is the scientific name for it? How many people in your state do you think are playing women's sports as a man? How many do you think?
Well, they keep changing the number. I don't want to
give me a
know
ballpark.
Everything.
Give me a ballpark. Well, you can't have a strong opinion, that this is the way you wanted to vote, which is like using all your power to put into office people who have been literally brought in guilty by a jury for raping somebody, and then he goes out and he finds every person who's had sex with a minor, who's hired prostitutes, who shows videos of naked women on the House floor, and wants them to be the Attorney General of the United States, and wants them to be, the Speaker of the House, and how is that what you voted for as a Christian woman?
Well, I'll tell you, because I didn't like the way things were going. Okay, I can understand.
Where were they going?
Perfect.
But where were things going?
Really?
Where were they going?
I live in South Texas, right? We have been run over by the open borders that they wanted to leave open, keep open. We've had at least 4 murders within 100 miles.
How did you get from transgender? How did you get from you voted?
Such a mess.
It's such a mess. Okay, is the border open now?
It will be until Trump takes over.
It's not open now.
Well, I don't know. I
do know. So here's the thing, Linda.
Randy,
you have very strong opinions about.
You got the microphone, but listen up.
No,
listen up. When's the last time you were on the border?
Why do I need to be on the border when they're putting people in buses?
It is still open.
The border is not open. The border is not open, okay? There is no asylum claim that can be made. The border for commerce, the legal ports of entry are open, which is how fentanyl gets in the country, okay? You don't exactly give it to a Honduran woman with a 5-year-old and say, here, we're going to hope for the best that you're going to cross in illegally and get my fentanyl in there. And I just want you to understand, Biden has busted, I can't tell you how many fentanyl gangs, how many, drug cartels during his term, but you don't know that. You don't know. And that's going to be your fallback position. Well, Randy, I don't know about these things. I don't know how many transgendered people are actually playing women's sports when they're really boys. I don't know, but I know I voted for that to stop. Do you feel like you were a mistake? Well, I had an abortion too, but I didn't like the way things were going for what, women? Well, I think the border is open. Well, I think the border is closed. And I suggest you do a Google search because the internet works in South Texas. It works just fine. Linda, how is it that you shield yourself in this shroud of ignorance, but you voted to stop these things that aren't happening, and now we're about to crack apart? The United States is not viable anymore.
She was like a sprinkler hose of grievance just everywhere.
No,
she
it's
could
not
hit.
that. She was a fountainhead of ignorance.
Okay.
And her entire argument was going to be based on, well, I don't know. It was a feeling. What happened to the F your feelings when progressives said they had feelings? They had feelings. They wanted to marry. They had feelings. They wanted to vote. They had feelings they wanted to take care of. Oh, F your feelings. F your feelings. We vote on facts. And now you're sitting here telling me that the culture war, which was completely made up, it's not real, okay? We're not under invasion. And how do we know? Okay, here's the thing, Linda. Very industrious, innocent people who are here legally under temporary protected status, which I'm sure you don't know. I'm sure you don't know about that either. We're living in Springfield, Ohio, and they were doing a fabulous service for Springfield, Ohio, because Springfield, Ohio was in disrepair. It was falling behind for years and years. It didn't have any commerce. It didn't have any storefronts. It didn't have a main street. You know what that's like, right? So the people from Springfield saw job openings because the man who had these job openings, he had 100 of them, advertised them because he couldn't find anybody in Springfield who would do the job. And these were good jobs. These were quality assurance jobs. These were manufacturing jobs. These were driving forklift jobs. These were great jobs. But people just, they were very busy living off the check or very busy, doing other things like working in hospitals, being nurses. They just didn't have the people in Springfield to fill these jobs. So the Haitian population that lives here in Florida, and we're very proud to have them because they're church-going, religious, wonderful, family-oriented people who work super hard. And they answered the ad. And they started moving to Springfield. And all of a sudden, Springfield was starting to teem with life. It was starting to move commerce. It was starting to open up storefronts, everything from Creole food to people in Springfield being able to open up their own, hair salon. They were targeted by this Trump culture war by Trump himself, who said they were eating their pets. Remember that? They're eating the pets. They're eating the pets. Remember that? And they were spooked and they were scared, but they were hoping for the best with the election. Well, we all know what the result of the election is. And guess what? They're now fleeing Springfield. And Springfield's going to fall back into disrepair and fall back into being a Rust Belt city and fall back into the same old, because the people in Springfield were targeted by the man that you say is the decent one of the two. And now they can't live there anymore. What a great result. I just want you to know the culture war is not real, Linda. And I'm pretty sure that your Google machine in your own home actually works. And we know about the border because your freaky governor started putting people on buses and shipping them to New York City and to Boston and all over this country.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
The situation's grim for the Ukrainians. They're fighting literally for their survival against a mass Russian criminal offensive. The Russians are targeting civilian infrastructure. They're using DPICM munitions against civilian targets. They brought in what could turn out to be 100,000 North Koreans eventually. Oh my God. They're using Iranian-produced drones. China's giving them some minimal support. So it's a very difficult situation. I think you could argue that the Biden administration is closing hours, is adding one small factor that might help in the negotiations to end the war when the Trump administration comes in. And it's also responding, obviously, to the hypocrisy of the Russians. But as you suggest, even though ATACMS is a ferociously effective weapon, a 300-kilometer range, it can start now targeting Russian attack helicopter positions, fixed-wing aircraft, artillery that are attacking Ukraine. Even though it has military value, it's too little, too late.
Yeah, and 300 kilometers, 190-mile, range is what it is, and they were shot down, they were intercepted. So, listen, Ukraine has been, criminally invaded. The attack on civilian infrastructure, maternity hospitals. Linda doesn't know. She doesn't know much. She only knows that there's like some culture war that she's fighting against. Linda, here's a little number for you. This is easy to remember. 0.6% of America is transgendered. 0.6%. You voted on something that isn't happening. Just wow. Amazing.
And don't forget, her secondary issue that she wanted to discuss with you is that Biden is a warmonger, and with this and authorizing these attacks.
Biden is a warmonger?
Yeah, Biden's a warmonger.
She didn't say that.
No, she didn't get there.
Oh.
She didn't get there, but she said that he probably caused World War III by making these attacks available.
But she doesn't know anything about them. Like if I asked her how far do they go, or what do they do, or can they be intercepted, she wouldn't know.
I don't know about that.
Well, Randy, I just don't know. I just don't know about that. I just know that this was not someplace I wanted to go. I just know that I just know that we needed to take women's rights away from them, even though she just admitted to me that she had an abortion. I wanted to hear all about it. I wanted to hear who was the guy who did it to her, what the hell the circumstances were that she, was okay for her, but then, it's not okay for, anybody else. I don't even know. But she agreed I shouldn't die. So there was some redeeming social value to that.
It's all about common ground, right?
Yeah. You got to find it where you can find it. So she agreed I should not have died at 23 from an ectopic pregnancy. And by the way, Linda, I only knew I was pregnant for 10 minutes before the emergency surgery actually occurred. I was in the hospital. In screaming agony. I just never felt anything like I was baking a cherry pie, actually, is what I was doing. I lived in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin, honey. A little tiny town. And I collapsed baking a cherry pie in the middle of the winter. I called my mother. She said, oh my God, call somebody that knows what to tell you. I don't know. My mother didn't know about abortion. She didn't know anything about it. So no, I'm not a mistake. I was wanted. And I got to tell you, my parents were only marginally acceptable parents. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't try, but God, they fought all day, every day. You know what I'm saying, Linda? Do you really think that every wanted child is, going to grow up in a house where nobody abuses them, or nobody touches them, or nobody yells at them, or nobody, doesn't feed them, or no? Yeah, it's a crazy thing you got going on. But okay, the propaganda that you've been subject to, like if you're getting your news off of TikTok, God forbid. She sounded older. I'll say Instagram, maybe Twitter, maybe even Facebook. I should say Facebook. Yeah. It's probably a Facebook scenario. It's probably a Facebook situation I'm dealing with over here. But anyway, all that stuff, propaganda. And we know that because Russia, Putin, gave an interview. And he actually is quoted. And he said, how would America come apart, it seems like, with Donald Trump? And he said, the answer for the Kremlin is simple. Culture war. Culture war. Quote, projects like Black Lives Matter and the rampant promotion of transgender theories are aimed at the spiritual degradation of a population already in a state of apathy. Ordinary citizens will not lift a finger now to preserve America, knowing they mean nothing to their own government. This was all to turn you against your own government. And by God, by all evidence in your phone call, it worked. You actually bought into this Russian-created culture war that we're not having. It isn't on. 0.6% of our population is not a reason to vote in a rapist, to vote in a con man, a clown, a business fraud who's only picking sexual deviants to be in very high positions in our government so that you will not trust your own government going forward. So that when planes start crashing, you know who we picked up? This isn't a sexual deviant or anything like that. This is a guy who was on Dancing with the Stars. Okay. This is a failed Congress member. His name's Sean Duffy. Donald Trump picked Sean Duffy, who has absolutely no experience in transportation of any sort. I guess he owns a car. That would be his experience. I don't know. But he picked Sean Duffy to be the unserious Secretary of Transportation to replace the very serious Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg, who actually responded to the East Palestine train derailment with hazardous materials. Pete Buttigieg, who actually interfered. He intervened in a pilot strike, intervened in a flight attendant strike, with the flight attendants and the pilots getting double-digit wage increases, okay? I mean, did a fabulous job. Now we're in this era where you have this South African freak of nature, this apartheid-loving Elon Musk dude who can't be president. Can't, because he's not a natural-born citizen of the United States. He was raised in South Africa. He longs for and remembers with fondness apartheid. Peter Thiel, his cohort in creating PayPal, also believes in apartheid. He was raised partly with his father as the head of a South African mine, and his father, drilled into him the beauty of this apartheid system that he was raised in as well. Yeah, so this is the president and the vice president now, Linda. This is who you actually voted for, and you pick proxies, and the proxies are Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, which is so fascinating. But these are the people that you pick to be the president. These are the people that are staffing the government. And so remember, Elon Musk would like to see driverless cars, driverless truck driving. Yeah, that's like a whole... See, I was a truck driver, Linda. I do know about that. It's a tough job, but somebody's got to do it, damn it. I showed up and did it. And our truck drivers out there, who are one of our most loyal groups of listeners... Elon Musk wants driverless cars, driverless trucks, and with Sean Duffy at the head of the Secretary of Transportation, he ain't going to stop it. He's not going to, he's not even going to know how. Sean Duffy in charge of air traffic controllers. What could go wrong there? In charge of hazardous materials on rail cars.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All right, Clay in Mississippi.
Hello, comrade. Welcome to Trumpistan, where sanity is illegal.
Yeah. It's a mental illness, sanity is now.
Yes, it is. It is frowned upon.
Well, maybe Elon, the new president, number 47, will come and put a chip in our brain so that we could be blue-pilled.
Yeah, we can be controlled.
Yes. Live in an illusion, like my little friend there in South Texas. It must be really it must be really beautiful to not know anything but have very strong opinions. Yeah. I mean, I would love to be that. I would love to have my still very strong opinions, but based on nothing. No work.
And 4 murders
no reading.
In South Texas. That's all. 4 murders, all committed by immigrants. There
were 3 stabbings in New York yesterday because of a mentally ill guy just started.
And they weren't. And he wasn't an immigrant. Yeah.
No, he wasn't. He was a New Yorker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the gun nuts. A lot of them. They're afraid of. They want their guns because they're afraid of a tyrannical government oppressing them.
Right.
Well, that's what we're kind of going to be going into. Are they going to do anything about that?
So you'd have to ask
them.
Won't. You're going to have to ask, like, all the people that Donald Trump's going to let out of prison, like the Oath Keepers, Stuart Rhodes. He's about to, see some sort of a part in. Or maybe the very violent Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio. That sounds like an immigrant name to Linda, I'm sure. Enrique Tarrio, Linda. Enrique, he's going to let him out of jail. But, if they're smart, if the gun nuts are smart, they'll actually switch over to drones and tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what's going to be coming down the street.
Rocket launchers.
Yeah.
Got to have your rocket launchers.
Shoulder-fired rocket launchers would be good here.
Yeah.
Yeah, bazookas.
Got to be able to have all that stuff.
Yeah, I
mean, the Second Amendment.
I should check out my garage right now.
Thanks.
Okay. Diane in Arkansas.
About putting these sexual assaulters in charge of departments, especially the Defense Department. I'm a Coast Guard veteran, and I believe you're an Air Force veteran.
I am.
I mean, this is not sex. It's it's not sexual in nature, really.
No, it
is assault. It is violence against women. And now, these company presidents and whatever, hey, do what you want to do with women.
Abso-freaking-lutely. That is the misogynist wet dream. And this is the country they are creating for women. This is the country that they envisioned forever. And this comes right out of the people who are advising this administration. This comes right out of Peter Thiel's worldview, okay, which is a very, very super misogynistic interpretation of Catholicism. And every single one of these people is part of this cabal of, I call them Opus Dei Catholics. It's a very strange breed of people. And they have influenced the thinking of our vice president. They have influenced the thinking of Mike Johnson, of, Amy Coney Barrett. All of these people who are in extraordinary positions of power, who feel that they must take away our autonomy. They must take away our choices. They must take away women's rights.
We go back to the point that women and our property.
Right, chattel. Yeah.
That's
right.
what
and we shouldn't.
That's what it is.
Listen, women weren't able to buy a house or have their own credit card without their husband's signature in the 70s. It's not just that long ago, okay?
Well, I remember when I got my first credit card was 1970. It was a Sears card, then a Shell Oil Company card. I remember those days. I was an early feminist, and we called those people male chauvinist pigs, MCPs for short.
They are.
We didn't. No one has given women anything in this country, including the vote. We had to fight for it.
Yeah. That's absolutely true. I mean, I don't know if Linda is aware that African Americans got the vote before women did, which means
correct.
African American women couldn't vote even when African American men could. So
and African American men make more than white women, and then the poor black women are below that.
So I don't know why Linda's machine doesn't work. I don't know why she can't just type that in and get an answer.
Hey, I grew up in South Texas.
Yeah.
I spent part of my life on the border in El Paso.
Oh my God, me too.
Yeah. I know. I can tell you a lot about immigrants.
Yeah.
I've never been assaulted by a Mexican immigrant.
No, me neither. And I did live all over Texas. I lived in West Texas, which is where
Yes.
El Paso might be. I lived right on the border, and I never was bothered. Although I will say, in the Air Force, it was kind of rapey. It really was, but not in Texas. No, not in West Texas. No, I was fine there. And you know what? The only time I ever saw somebody shoot a gun at people, was in West Texas. I was the DJ in a place called The Main Event in Odessa, Texas. Okay, it was like a
yes,
yeah.
I know Odessa.
Okay,
yes,
okay. And so there was this guy I was playing. They requested the Nielsen song, "You're Breaking My Heart, You Tear Me Apart, So F You," and I played it. And this guy literally lost his mind and just started shooting at the DJ booth. And I had to hit the deck, man. Thank God I had been in the military, and I knew, like, my instinct was to just hit the deck. But that was the only time I ever saw anybody, try and kill somebody in my whole freaking life. So, yeah.
Keep up the good work, Randy.
You too, Diane. We need you. Thank you. In Arkansas.
I've been listening. Me and my husband have been listening to you for years. And a lot of people on Free Speech TV and XM radio. And if it wasn't all of you, Stephanie Miller, Tom Hartman, you, Michael Signorelli, I can't pronounce his last name.
Michael Signorelli. Yeah, he has.
I'd be crazy by now.
Michael has my time slot. I really need him.
I know.
I need him to leave. I need him to go.
We need to be able to hear both of you at the same time.
Yeah, put him on overnights. He's a very sleepy host, I have to say. A nice guy, sleepy host. Not my favorite. But yeah, there's some great ones. Dino Badala. I mean, there's there's fabulous hosts out there. Really, really good ones. So thank you very much for the little boost. Because it's always very defeating when you have to talk to somebody who disagrees with you based on nothing. That's the most frustrating person there is, because you couldn't stop her from voting the way she voted because of peer pressure. She's in South Texas. Everybody around her was voting for the Orange Menace. Everybody around her was worshiping at the trough of, a guy who really does not have our intentions at heart, who doesn't care about the American people, who doesn't care about anything but his own damn self. He's still grifting. He's still grifting. He's still out there trying to make a buck off the presidency. It's very sad. But that she knows nothing, but feels very strongly. That must be so cool. God. Susie in California.
Hi, Randy.
Hey.
You're great.
Thanks.
You're a wonderful person, and you got a hard job. I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
The optics of Joe Biden meeting with Trump in the White House, putting his hand out to shake his hand was the wrong thing. And I'll tell you why. I am out here in California fighting for my life and for my family. And I'm so angry.
That he
I'm
normalized
so angry
him.
that Joe did that.
Yeah, I hear you.
To do that. We're fighting for our lives, and they're out making friends with these people. What's wrong with them? What?
So I'll just tell you what the theory was, what the thought was, and I hear you. I wasn't sure whether I was okay with any of it, but I understood the bigger man, Joe Biden, wanted to show a peaceful transfer of power could happen even with somebody he personally believes is a danger to the United States. Now, that doesn't work on so many levels that it made you cry. So,
yeah,
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, but
it was a double-edged sword. He was screwed if he didn't, okay? Because then he was a sore
But there is
loser.
no peaceful transfer. It's done. We are in deep trouble with this man.
Yes,
He's
I
a
agree.
fascist. He's gonna. So how can someone sticks a knife in your back, slaps you in the face, and then you go, come on in, do it again.
Right,
This
right.
craziness.
It is, please, sir, may I have another? It is. I get it. I hear you. And I listen, if I had to
If
weigh
any of our politicians are out there listening, listen, we're not going to fight if you're not going to fight too. Then give it up. Just give it up now, because we're not going to stick our lives out on the line if you're not going to do it for us also.
You nailed it.
That's all I'm going to say.
Good point.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Susie. She's right about that. If I had to weigh it, it would have been a quarter of the load for doing it and 3/4 for not doing it. It was very painful. It was awful. I didn't show it. I have it, but I didn't show it.
Mary had a little man.
The false. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
President-elect Trump upping the pressure on Republican senators to confirm former Congressman Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, even calling some senators directly.
This as the attorney for two women who testified in the Gaetz House ethics investigation speaks out.
Claiming one of his clients saw the Republican firebrand having sex with a minor.
What?
An allegation Gaetz vehemently denies.
What did your client witness?
She testified in July of 2017 at this house party. She was walking out to the pool area and she looked to her right and she saw Representative Gaetz having sex with her friend who was 17.
And at the time, he was a sitting congressman.
I don't know if she was aware of who he was at the time, but at the time, yes, he was a sitting congressman for about 6 months. My client testified to the House that her understanding was that Matt Gaetz did not know that she was a minor, and that when he learned that she was a minor, that he broke off things and did not continue a sexual relationship until she turned 18.
Do we know how old he was at the time of this encounter?
I believe he was 35.
And she was 17, about to turn 18, presumably.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Florida Attorney Joel Leppard adding both of his clients testified before the House Ethics Panel after being subpoenaed by Congress, describing how Gaetz paid them both for sex using Venmo.
They essentially put the Venmo payments on the screen and asked about them, And my clients repeatedly testified, what was this payment for? Well, that was for sex, yes.
Do you know how many times, how many parties your clients went to and had sex with Representative Gaetz?
Well, not all of them were parties. So some of them were events, such as they attended election events, like at hotels. They went with him to New York for a taping on Fox News. But approximately perhaps 10 times, 10 to 15 times.
Their testimony is that Representative Gaetz took them across state lines for the purpose of having sex and paid them for that.
That's correct.
The underage girl, who's now in her 20s, also testified before the Ethics Committee.
Great.
Leopard says his clients do not want to testify again for a Senate confirmation, but he said they believe what they told the House investigators should be made public.
This is not a political hit job. This is not an anti-Matt Gaetz stance per se. It is more that this is what happened to him. It's true. And they want the American people to know about this as they consider their future attorney general, potentially.
Attorney General. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Underage girls, witnesses to underage sex, parties, sex-fueled, drug-fueled parties. They said ecstasy was the drug of choice, in case you were wondering. And Matt Gaetz has actually bragged that his MO is to do Red Bull and Viagra and or Cialis and or Blue Chew. And that way he could go all night. Okay, so here's a guy who is having sex and paying for sex with underage girls. Do you know what that's called, Linda? Linda, do you know what that is? Sex trafficking. That's the thing that we're screaming about with regard to, immigrants and sex trafficking. And, there's sex trafficking going on. Yes, with Congress members doing it. Congress members. And apparently, remember Nestor? His, beloved stepson, his underage stepson that Matt Gaetz said was like his own blood. He charged some of the sexual encounters with the underage girls on Nestor's Venmo account. God. Unbelievable. And Russia is just thrilled by it, just absolutely thrilled by it. They said the U.S. authorities, without understanding the consequences, are destroying themselves step by step. And Russia says, we're trying to help. We're trying to help. As part of a broad assault on the so-called woke culture and its supposed threat to traditional family and religious values, which Matt Gaetz represents, which Donald Trump says he represents, which Pete Hegseth, who wants to be the Secretary of Defense, represents. And by the way, he was also, accused of, being very rapey, having sex with a woman who was not conscious. That's an interesting one. He literally wants to be the Secretary of Defense. He denies that he had to, but he did pay the girl to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. Linda, you should Google that too, non-disclosure agreement. And he wants to be the Secretary of Defense in the already very rapey American military and does not believe that women have a role to play in combat in the military, even though people like Tammy Duckworth, who are sitting U.S. senators, Democratic though, Linda wouldn't know who she is, lost both her legs being a combat helicopter pilot. Hegseth doesn't think her service was wanted or needed. She's like, what's wrong with you? How do you think I lost my legs, you moron? And by the way, she's had 2 children, but, Linda, she had to use IVF. Had to. Because she was blown to smithereens. Okay. But anyway, the Russians are thrilled. They're thrilled. They said, at home, we've seen the banning of gender transition, the labeling of LGBTQ groups as extremist organizations, and the restricting of books that mention same-sex love. An army of Russian bots and propagandists promote conspiracy theories, vaccine skepticism, anti-feminism, anti-LGBT sentiment, and anti-immigrant rhetoric on social media. The aim, they said, is to deepen the polarization of American society and eventually break it apart. God love you, Linda. You're doing your part. You're doing your thing. You're doing your part. You're helping, the Russian bots and the Russian propagandists to break us apart. I just hope that when you get your wet dream, when you get your wish, that America just breaks apart because of a culture war that isn't really happening, but that Russia is pretending is, and that you have bought into, that you are safe from the Mexican, let's take back our land crowd. Because that is the next phase of the life in Texas. Yes, Texas. And some little smidgen of, Southern California, too. I don't know how San Diego's going to deal and cope. I'm not sure. Really not clear. Arizona, good luck with this. Good luck. I know you find it absurd right now. However, it's on. It's happening. It's gonna. Unless we can educate people to wake up. Oh, but then we'll be woke. Yes, exactly. And this is what they're afraid of, which is why they gave being awake, being conscious, being oriented in the world in which you toil, in the world in which you make a living, in a world in which you raise children, in a world in which you take deep breaths of fresh air, we hope. The idea that you would be oriented and that you would know what's true and what's false, that's anathema. Look that up, Linda. Anathema. Poison is what it means. Check me out. I mean, we are going to become the Soviet Union. And I must tell you that these right-wing Catholic extremists who are influencing people like J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance has said, yes, I keep very strange company on the right. I am, I am very much down with a lot of, and this is his quote, J.D. Vance, I am plugged into a lot of weird right-wing subcultures. He actually told people who wanted to hear it, but Linda doesn't know, that he's plugged into some weird right-wing subcultures and that they are a handful of very niche right-wing conservative elite writers and thinkers. And they advocate for us getting over, swear to God, our fear of dictators. No, I'm not making that up. I'm just reading. That's all I'm doing over here. I'm just reading the quotes from these, right-wing influencers who have gotten into the head of J.D. Vance, not just Peter Thiel, but a whole. Go look at the RandiRhodes.com homework.
On TV.
I do.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
So, Linda, is this what you voted for?
This morning, a lawyer for two women at the center of a House ethics investigation involving former Congressman Matt Gaetz speaking out. The lawyer claims in 2019, then Congressman Gaetz paid the women to travel to New York City to watch his appearance on Fox News, attend the Broadway show Pretty Woman, and have sex with him.
Both of your clients testified that they were paid by Representative Gaetz to have sex.
That's correct.
The lawyer says one of his clients also testified she saw Gaetz having sex with a 17-year-old girl.
She testified in July of 2017 at this house party. She was walking out to the pool area and she looked to her right and she saw Representative Gaetz having sex with her friend who was 17.
You voted for that, Linda? Because that's the real culture war. That's the real sex pest, rapey, trafficking of a minor story. And the only reason why they fed you a story about others doing that is because they were doing it. The only reason why they fed you stories about pedophiles is because they're pedophiles. The only reason why they fed you stories about, people getting raped by this group or that, immigrant, is because they're raping women. Donald Trump is literally guilty of raping E. Jean Carroll by virtue of a jury trial. And she, apparently, was the only human being who was able to hold Donald Trump accountable for his really grotesque and unacceptable behavior as a person in this country, let alone in power, and as the president of the United States. Now, why is Donald Trump picking people with, backgrounds like this. Linda, why is he doing that? If he cares so much about you and the culture and the decency of the American, experiment and the society in which we toil and raise children, why is every single person he has nominated dirty? Why is every single person he has nominated followed by an enormous amount of accusations from especially women who have been violated by them? Why do you think that is? I say it's so that he can, blackmail them. I say he puts them in very, very, important positions in order to make him a dictator, in order to countenance all the illegal crap he's going to do to us, in order to steal from us. And yes, he's going to steal the Medicaid trust fund. He's going to steal the Medicare trust fund. He's going to steal the federal education dollars. Because he said, he's going to abolish. He said it the other day. I am going to abolish the Department of Education, right?
One other thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work and needs back to the states. We want them to run the education of our children because they'll do a much better job of it. You can't do worse.
You can't do worse. Well, let's just put it this way. I think Arkansas exists so that Mississippi won't be last in education. I really do. I think that's why. But, he's going to steal the money, the federal funds that go to the school districts, that go to the states. He's going to steal the Medicaid trust fund. That will go first. Then he's going to go after the Medicare trust fund, which is really the big kahuna, and the Social Security trust fund. He's also going to go after EBT cards and food stamps. And steal it. Do you really think that we're going to see him take those large amounts of money and give them back to us? Do you think you're going to get refund checks or anything even remotely like that? Because I'm here to tell you the answer to that is clearly no. And I know this because I've seen the tax bill. Okay, and the tax plan that Donald Trump is coming with is the same tax plan he came with last time, and it's just a renewal of the tax breaks for the very wealthy. 87% of all the tax breaks go to the top 1% in this country, and now the cost of it, back then it was $2 trillion, now it costs $4 trillion. $4 trillion. And that money is going to be given to his donors. That money is going to be stolen from us and redistributed to his friends, to his donors. Listen, if there was really a question of, we spend way past our means and we have to do this and that too, Elon Musk would then fork over his subsidy of $15 billion that he gets from our government, and that's just for one of his companies. That's just for one. Okay, so no, we're not going to see any relief. We're going to actually watch him steal from us as we fight 50% against the 49% that voted for this schmuck. Okay, I swear to God, it's just like, so why? Listen, let me, Rachel laid it out last night. I mean, she is livid, truly livid. Okay, and trying to explain to you why there will be no FBI background checks on any of these people. Well, obviously they couldn't pass them. Okay? And I don't know if she knows who Kash Patel is, but this is who Donald Trump wants to be the FBI director, a guy you never heard of, a guy who you should never have heard of, a guy who has no experience at all in, investigatory. Anyway, this is why.
What is vetting, really, right? What is vetting? Why do they do that? The whole reason nominees for high office get checked out, the whole reason they get vetted, the whole reason there's supposed to be a deep dive background check on anyone applying for a security clearance, anybody potentially being appointed to high office, the whole reason to do that is to make sure there isn't going to be any leverage against them or any hidden dynamics at play while they have a sensitive position on behalf of the United States of America. Right. So you want to know, like, is this person a foreign agent? Or were they a foreign agent in the past? Are they linked to organized crime? Do they have a criminal background of any kind or links to criminal associates? Is this person on someone's payroll or in debt to someone? Are they addicted to drugs or alcohol or gambling? Is there anything about this person's life or background that makes them potentially vulnerable to blackmail or extortion? Is there anything that can be known about them that they really wouldn't want to get out and they might do anything to keep it from being made public? Well, how about if a guy got his job only because the contents of an official government report into his alleged child sex trafficking was politically suppressed, and he's therefore desperate to keep that hidden from the public? While, among many other people involved in the process, at least 10 members of Congress have that report that he is desperate to keep hidden. Is that a good situation for the Attorney General of the United States to be in?
No, you know what that is? That is a license for those 10 who have that information to steal. That is what that is. That is an Attorney General of the United States who's being blackmailed by people who have the power of the purse. And if they can't wet their beak, if they can't get their vig, if they can't get their share, if they can't take their cut without the long arm of the Attorney General or the law investigating them, then they won't. But if they can, because they can blackmail the Attorney General, then they will steal. They will. And that's what this is all about. It's just about stealing. And the chaos in which we toil and live is manufactured. It's made up. It's not real. America still is a fine place. It still is a good country, full of good people, Linda. It's not full of rapey people. It's not full of, immigrants that want to hurt you. No, it's not.
Clear. Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. The other pick here that seems to be pushing the boundaries of what the system is going to take is his pick for the Pentagon chief. Obviously, Pete Hegseth has been part of this as well. What did you hear? What have you heard over the last, 48 hours of how Trump is viewing that, given we've learned he did pay money to the woman that's accusing him of sexual assault, which I should note he and his attorney are denying?
There's more concern from some people around Trump than there is from Trump himself about this whole issue. Trump has really dug in and has told advisors that he is going to stick with Hegseth. Now, we'll see if anything else emerges. They did do a vet, we are told. This did not show up, this issue, because it was a private settlement, according to the people who were briefed on what took place. Trump really likes Pete Hegseth, but this did introduce the thing Trump doesn't like, which is an element of surprise and a negative headline. And so we will see where this goes. But for now, he is sticking with him as he is with Gaetz. Most of the heat right now, Caitlin, is on Gaetz. And so where Trump's thinking and his advisors' thinking is that he can basically shift what the bar is for acceptability and how much controversy the Senate system will tolerate if Gaetz goes, maybe the other three, Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. being the others, get through.
Oh, my God. This is a clown car of, chaos is being wheeled into our government. And, there's never an egg timer around when you need one. What was I just saying? They're going to steal the Medicaid trust fund. Then they're going to go after the Medicare trust fund. Didn't I just say that? And bam, before I could even, start the egg timer over here, Trump actually made an announcement that he's going to put Dr. Oz of television fame. Yes, Dr. Oz. You can blame Oprah for him. But Dr. Oz is going to be in charge of the Medicaid, Medicare agency. He's going. And I have to tell you that this morning in the Washington Post, there was an article about how the Republicans are looking at the Medicaid trust fund, food stamp program, and other federal safety net programs to offset the enormous $4 trillion tax cut he wants to give to the very wealthiest Americans. They want work requirements for Medicaid. They want work requirements for food stamps. Now, Donald Trump had put those in place when he was president, and then Biden came and removed the work requirements for people who were unable to work, obviously. But I have a caller. He still sticks in my head because I know he's in trouble. I know he's in trouble, and he knows he's in trouble. I don't know him. I never met him. He's not a frequent caller or anything. He just stuck in my head. It was a guy we spoke to, I think, last week, and he was blind. He's a blind guy, young guy, sounded, completely like in his 40s or somewhere around there, who is unable to work, so he gets a Section 8 housing voucher. He gets food stamps, and he gets Social Security. And he asked me, was he in trouble? And it was so hard for me to tell him, but I have to tell the truth. Yeah, you're in trouble. And he is. People like that are going to fall through the cracks. People like him are going to lose the benefits that keep them alive, that keep them afloat, that keep them living in a tiny little place as a blind man, unable to work or unable to, get health care any other way except through Medicaid, unable to pay rent except through a Section 8 housing voucher in Section 8 housing, which typically is what, Linda fears the most, living in a bad hood. She's terrified, right? But he asked me, am I in trouble? You're in trouble. Yes, you are. They need to take things away from the most vulnerable Americans in order to reward the best off, the most well-situated, the billionaire class, which Trump promised that he would do. He said it out loud. There's tons of videotape that Linda could Google and find where Trump is saying to people at MAGA Loco, which is a club that you will not be allowed to join, Linda, because it's his. But he told them, listen, you're all very rich people, and I'm going to give you all tax cuts. So you need to donate. You need to be, And he also told the oil and gas people, he said, give me $1 billion and I'll let you do anything. You could do whatever you want. And that happened. I don't know that they gave him $1 billion. They gave him a whole lot of millions. And he's going to open up federal lands. He's going to give away Wyoming and Montana, which is what, John Tester in Montana, your senator who was a Democrat from Montana for years and years, was trying to tell you, Montana. But you went out and you picked yourself this snot-nosed rich dude who isn't even from Montana, who's going to give away your federal land. And John Tester tried to tell you. He'll do that, and he is going to do that. There's no question in my mind he's going to do that. But we're so screwed, it's unbelievable. Now, I will say, as far as the vetting goes, there is a way to do it. And listen, I know there's an ethics report that we paid for. Our tax dollars fund the ethics committee, which is the only committee that's 50-50, meaning it's half Democratic and half Republican equally. Every other committee, whoever has the majority, gets the majority members and gets the chairmanship, not the ethics committee. It's the only committee that is literally ethical. And we paid for that ethics report. We paid for that investigation. We paid for the information. We paid for the testimony that was given by these girls who say that he is a drug-fueled sex pest who trafficked minors for money. Matt Gaetz, okay? The 10 people who have already seen it, the 10 people that were involved in the ethics report, half of them are Democrats, half of them are Republicans. That means Matt Gaetz is blackmailable by anybody who wishes to steal or do anything to him. However, Joe Biden is still the president. He is for another 61 days, not that I'm counting. And while he's president, he can actually ask Christopher Wray, who was Donald Trump's appointment to the FBI. Donald Trump picked Christopher Wray. He fired James Comey, and he picked Christopher Wray, and Christopher Wray has a 10-year term, Linda. And so he's still the FBI director, and he can do the vetting. He can actually vet all of these people, and he can make whatever he finds out available to the Senate, who has to advise and consent to these nominees. That should happen, and that can happen. And it needs to happen. That's one way around seating all these freaks of nature. We need an investigation into Tulsi Gabbard. You need to find out for yourself, Linda, that she is part of a weird side religion that is an offshoot of the Hare Krishnas, that she's compromised, that she believes that Bashar al-Assad of Syria, who gassed his own people, gassed children, should be shown the aloha spirit. This is what she said about Bashar al-Assad, who is a freaking terrorist dictator who murders his own people with gas, which is why we said we went to war with Saddam Hussein, if you remember. I don't know how much she knows about any of this. However, Tulsi Gabbard will defend Assad and defends Putin, who is waging war in this country right now.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All righty, 47 after Claire in Oregon.
Hi, Randi.
Hey.
I got to hand it to you for still trying to keep the fight going. I don't know how you're doing it. I wanted to call so badly after that woman Linda called, the one with all the feelings and stuff, and I had to take a work call, so I couldn't call you, but hopefully, and I haven't listened, so I don't know if I'm totally off topic, but I mean, I don't know what to do at this point. I mean, since the Tuesday, the election, which was my birthday,
yeah.
Don't wish that on anybody. I was just like trying to get my bearings, it was like I was ready to fly off the earth thinking, it was like the whole world turned upside down. It was, 2016 redux, but worse.
Well, sequels suck always. Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah, right.
This one's no exception.
Oh, God. And I was listening to, I don't know if you know about The Rest is Politics. It's a Goalhanger podcast, and they have a U.S. version that has Anthony Scaramucci and Katty Kay on it. And they were doing kind of election coverage that night, and there's a historian, Dominic Sandbrook, who has a podcast on history, and he basically was saying that what we're living through is the 3 Ps, populism, polarization, and post-truth.
Yeah.
Which, what do you do with that last one?
All right. So
I mean, yeah.
Okay. So there's this giant propaganda machine. It's called social media, and some of it is owned by China, and some of it is owned by Elon, and some of it is owned by Zuckerberg. Okay. And so they've got the market sort of, wrapped in a nice little package with a bow on it, and they're for sale. And they sell, information about you to other people so that they can target you. The first thing to do is to get off of those platforms.
Yeah.
And then
exactly
right. And then start to orient yourself into the true of the truth of our lives, which isn't so terrible. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, our economy is, thank God it was repaired. It was good. They're trying to tell everybody how things just suck all over the place. Biden is a warmonger. He ended a 20-year war. He ended it, and he didn't do it the right way. So he's a warmonger. There's something wrong with him. Okay. Biden is too old, but they just elected a 78, going to be 79-year-old man who's obviously declining right in front of our faces, okay, who never really worked hard as president and isn't going to work hard this time. So there's the first thing to do is unplug.
Yep. And the thing is where do you replug, though? You've talked so many times about how we don't have shared experiences, and I agree with you so much about that.
Yep.
We don't have shared experiences in realities, in facts, right? So if people unplug from those places, they don't know where to go, right, to get the truth, to get, the facts. Like people just are at a complete loss because we're so siloed. The algorithms have been so successful in separating us, right, polarizing us, that where do you go? I mean, it's like I've had people ask, like, where do you go? And a lot of times I say, legacy media. But they've been so maligned for so long. So it's like no one can trust anything.
Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, we just got ourselves a new FCC commissioner who is going to go after networks. He's going to go after CBS probably first because he's going to say that they edited a long answer that Kamala gave into a shorter answer for air. And that somehow was corrupt, and he's going to go after their license. Whoever they go after, whoever they finger, whoever they sue, whoever they pull a license from, that's who's telling you the truth.
Yeah. And it feels conspiratorial too, doesn't it? It's like it just feeds back into that loop of people being suspicious then,
Of what?
It's like they've just won coming and going. I worry so much. I'm getting nihilistic because I feel like it's the most realistic take to take, and I don't want to go there.
Okay, so here's the result. This is what it would look like. If everybody is bamboozled and people are divided and it's 49-50, whatever it is. So then we start to look like Hungary. It's not going to look like China. Okay, we're not going to have gulags and mass trials and all that, but we will see a complete assault on a free press. We will see a politicization of protest. That won't be allowed. And so once those things start happening, Americans will know. Everyone will have that shared experience. And some people will approve of that experience and think, they hated protests. They think that protests were bad and they don't want to see them anymore, whatever. But 99% of us will say, I'm sorry, but the Constitution guarantees me free speech and freedom of assembly. And, the press is the first thing that they talk about that has to be preserved. I'm not putting up with this. And that will be the shared experience.
Yeah.
But the only thing that's going to knock us out of this, death loop that we're in, this is the experience. We have to go down that bad road now.
And I think you're right. That's the medicine, right?
Yes.
Just like it's the medicine for climate change people to actually see their house be destroyed or their loved one die. That suddenly will wake us up. And it's sad that it takes that degree.
It is sad. It's pathetic. People are going to have to lose their check. Their check's not going to come anymore. Their Social Security check's not going to come in. It's all like it's like chemotherapy at this point. Okay, where it's a race to see whether the chemicals kill the cancer or kill you.
Yeah.
It's where we are. I'm just
that's a great analogy and a terrible one.
A terrible one. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's where we are. I'm sorry, but
thank you for hanging in there, Randi. Seriously, you're my lighthouse. I say that every time. But
you're welcome.
Keep fighting.
My family is not thrilled with my decision, Claire. I have to tell you. They're not exactly overjoyed that I'm still here, but whatever. So that is really what's going to happen. And I want everybody to be prepared for it because that is the road that America has chosen. It is the direction that they want to go in. And by they, I mean 49% of this country, 49% of the people who voted in this election, not of this country. Again, there are 90 million eligible voters who did not vote. 90 million. We're 350 million, give or take, okay? Figure 100, let's say 90 million are children. Let's say that. And then 90 million are eligible to vote but did not. And then the rest voted. The rest that voted chose this road. 49% of those who voted chose this road. And now we're going down this road. How long we're on this road, that's up to us. How much we're going to, put up with it, that's up to us. But unless and until we have a shared experience that is not positive, where you're thrown off of your Medicaid, where you're thrown off of your Social Security, where there are now work requirements for people who are disabled who cannot work, where they are starting to fire the Teamsters that wouldn't endorse Joe Biden, and they start to lose their jobs to Elon Musk's driverless trucks. I mean, that's kind of down the road a little, but unless and until everybody who voted for this really bad road starts to experience the potholes and the stealing that's going to occur. I mean, listen, Sheldon Whitehouse, senator from Rhode Island, who knows the Supreme Court is totally corrupt and knows that they're on the take and knows that they're the only court in the United States that has no ethics code. None. And knows what they are up to and knows what they've done for money, said, get ready get ready for a lot of corruption. Because that's what happens in autocracies. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of mismanagement of your money, but it's not really being mismanaged. It's being given. It's being taken. It's being given to somebody else. Everything that you were afraid that some immigrant was getting, you know, like they were getting a food stamp, maybe, I doubt it, but they were getting a roof over their heads, keep them from, you know, living on the streets so that people had to step over them in Manhattan. Okay, they were getting something. Wait until you see what the very, very, very elite get from you. Wait. And they won't be brown people. And Vivek Ramaswamy's brown. You know what I mean? But they won't be, they won't be people who are working, for a living. They're not going to be people who do roofing. They're not going to be people who pick strawberries. They're not going to be the people who pick the apples or the lettuce or the people that cut your meat. They're going to be extremely rich people, and they are going to steal from you. It's going to make your fears of immigrants taking something from you seem so, what it really always was. Stupid. Pointless. A smidge. Just to keep people alive. Barely. So get ready. We're about to have a shared experience. And in this weird way, it's kind of good.